So, nipple tattoos.
Nipple tattoos. Yeah.
So, for those who don't know, you recently had your nipples tattooed, but this is not a new thing.
No. And that was annoying for me is they were probably more visibly blacked out this time than ever before because I had the skull knockers there, whatever you want to call them.
I'm going to call them skull knockers.
Skull knockers is a good name. This is the 6th time I've done this.
6.
Yeah, 6
Ow.
times. And I think the first time I did it was early 2017.
Okay.
I was, more than anything, I would have done them much earlier than that, but the guy who did the skull knockers and most of the rest of my torso, for whatever reason, anytime we were in that area, he just was avoiding it. Like, it was always like, it was never no. Like, it was never, I don't want to do that. It was, yeah, we'll get it next time. Oh, we'll get it at the end of the next session. We'll get it at the end. And I think he never brought it up ever. I just kept asking him, hey, well, today at the end of the session or the start of the session, whichever you prefer, let's black out my nipples finally. And then we'd always laugh and, oh, we're going to do nipple tattoos today, are we? And joke about it. And then it would just never happen, right?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, like, let's do this. And it was similar to my armpits, too. He didn't want to go into the armpits either.
Yeah.
And I was always like, is he nervous about working on that skin? Or is it like a macho thing where you don't want to touch another man's nipples? Or because we had done everything else.
Yeah.
And some of it like over and over again.
Yeah.
And it's like, what is the problem here? And then it was so bad because, so in those times I was still on Instagram.
Yeah.
Late, like in 2016 and 2017. I think I started taking off midway through 2017. But at that point, I was mostly like a private, like not a big Instagram, like, but I did post progress pictures. And so I was posting pictures of my chest and torso work and getting whatever comments and likes. I ended up getting tagged by this page at the time. I think it was the first version of the page called Tattoo the Bloody Nipple. And it was like shaming me, like, why haven't you tattooed your nipple yet? And so I had never been reposted like that on Instagram before. I get that all the time now, but at the time it was embarrassing. For some reason, I was like offended.
They were calling you out?
They were calling me a wimp, is what I thought, like, or like I'm like a chicken or something, like. But I was like, no, this isn't my fault. I would do them. I want them done, right? It's not that I'm hiding from this.
Yeah.
So I felt like I was wrongly shamed. But of course,
you were wrongly shamed.
They're not gonna know the backstory, right? They don't care. They just see a picture of a guy who has a full torso, but he's got these pink nipples.
Yeah.
And I had giant skull knockers around them. So not only are they pink nipples on a giant full torso, but they're framed too, right?
Draw extra attention to it.
So not only am I not doing the nipple, now I'm drawing attention to it.
Yeah.
So it's like, of course I was tagged on that page.
Yeah.
Everything but the areola and the nub were tattooed. So it's like, I don't blame them for posting it, but I was like, okay, this is getting a bit much. So that's when I went to another artist. I went to Lee. And Lee had been salivating over the idea of doing them because you don't get to do nipples very often.
No,
so
super rare.
When I finally told him, I'm like, I just please do them for me.
Yeah.
And he was more than happy to do it. We videoed it. We got a super close up, slow mo. Like you could tell he was enjoying the idea of doing it.
Yeah.
Which fair enough. Like I was just so happy to finally get them done that we made that the whole session. Like I didn't do anything else because it was like, okay, it'll be a 20-minute session at the most. We'll just do this. And what we did was we had black and gray like tentacles and stuff up here. So we built black into the nipples and covered them like so it wasn't just an abrupt black.
Yeah.
Like we had some blackout fading off of it.
Yeah, made sense with the piece.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
we had to kind of plan it out. You can't just go, here, they're black now.
Yeah.
I mean, you could, but that's not a good
It's
way
not
to
going to
do
make
it.
sense in the piece.
Now it would have.
Yes, that's very true. And it does.
And it does now, but at the time it was so much black and gray detail and stuff in there that was like, we really want to try and make this make sense.
Yeah.
Now, still, the artist that did the original piece, he couldn't have been more unhappy about it. It's like, oh, and then it's just black all of a sudden. It's just black. Like, oh, that doesn't make sense. Like, where's the black coming from? Like, it was all these like weird, like, kind of annoyances at it. And that was the start of many problems with that. Like, anytime Lee would add new things or do things to change what he had done, it was like this weird kind of passive aggressive animosity. Yeah. To the point of like eventually me asking him, "Does it bother you that we're here? Like that we're doing this?" And of course he didn't. Oh no, you're thinking too much about it. You're thinking too much about it. It doesn't bother me at all. And so these guys were going back and forth because I was working on my back with Lee and my torso with the other artist. And all of a sudden, it's weird things like the tentacle right here extended into the back area.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like a weird, like jabs. FU or something, right? Yeah. But it was not obvious enough that you would know it as a person getting tattooed. Because I'm over here getting tattooed, right? And it all feels kind of the same.
Yeah, like you're all in that area.
Right. So I don't know that this tentacle is now extending into this back piece.
Yep.
And now it's going to be a problem for the back piece. And so I'm like, and I should say that Lee didn't do anything like that. No. He didn't do anything that I ever didn't ask for.
Yep.
But I was like going to get my back tattooed a little while after that session. And Lee's, oh, well, now that tentacle's right in the middle of my back piece. And it's like, yeah, that's not cool.
No.
So now we have to work around my back piece is like this giant kind of Gothic cathedral with 3 vampire ladies and stuff. And now there's a tentacle right in the middle of it. So we had to kind of sort that out, and there was a lot to work around.
Yeah, it makes it tough.
Yeah. So anyway, long story short, getting my nipples tattooed the first time was a complicated, troublesome manner. It was more awkward because of like how the artists were about it than it was for me to actually get.
Yeah.
And I still would
preamble to it.
Like I don't know if it's just like a really hard area to tattoo or what.
Well, I think it's something that you don't see a lot often.
Yeah.
Right. There's a few areas that are not as common to tattoo for different reasons. The tissue is a little different from what I understand, and like I've noticed that with some artists won't touch certain areas because they can be more difficult. Like you're seeing now more like you have your palms done.
Yeah.
Like the palm is a tricky area.
Yeah.
It's not something that's going to heal super easily. You're going to have a lot of fade out and things like that, the fingers. But as more people kind of get into it, I think it'll become more normal because you'll have more artists that have more experience with the area and it'll be less of like a mystery.
It might, but I'm always like, I just think there's such a stigma with it to where it's almost like a cool kids club. Or there's some barrier to entry or it's like, I did everything but my nipples because I don't want to feel that pain, right? Like everyone says it's so painful. So the idea is, I just don't want to go into it.
Yeah.
Like,
well, you see a lot of that with people avoiding their bicep too. If they're doing a sleeve, like, I want to stay away from
navigate
the inner arm.
Around the
which pain. Like if you're gonna do a sleeve, I mean, do the inner arm, like that. That comes along the territory, and it's not as bad as whatever it is that you think is gonna be.
No, it's never as bad. It's always like a folk tale that it's that bad, or you're gonna die if you do it. Like nothing like that.
No. It's always temporary.
Right. It's always temporary. Yeah. So the nipple itself is, I would say the nipple, and for whatever reason, the areola hurts me more than the actual nub. Most people say the other way around, but
really,
yeah, I don't know why, but my areolas really hurt compared to the nub. The nub is like kind of whatever, but it might be because generally when you're getting your nipples tattooed, it seems like the artist works the areola first,
right,
and then they gradually get on to the actual nipple.
So like the pain kind of increases.
Right. So I don't know if it's that I feel the areola first, and so that it's the shock of it.
Right.
Because I was just gonna say, chest tattoos in general for me are really minimal pain. I always say that they're a 5, but that being said, I would say the easiest tattoo is a 5. Every tattoo begins at a 5 for me. It's like people always go, on a scale of 1 to 10, and the bottom of that is 5 for me. There's
Right.
nothing less than 5.
Yep.
You ever find someone who tells you, "Oh, it didn't hurt at all"? Like, I always think that's macho kind of arrogance. Like, everything hurts to some degree.
I mean, I've seen the occasional person that doesn't seem to even notice it.
Yeah,
It's astounding to me. They're super rare. I've maybe seen a half dozen, and it's even more rare that they're guys. Like men seem to have a much lower pain tolerance.
They say that women are like they did this on MythBusters or something
Yep.
where the women endured the cold for longer or whatever, and that's their way of telling that women have a higher pain threshold, but like they're naturally in more pain than men are throughout the course of their life. So maybe there's a little more desensitized to it.
Yeah, could be.
But that's the thing. Like you're never going to live as a woman and a man. Like genetically from day one all the way to finish point. So it's hard to have that perspective. Like I can't tell you what a 32-year-old woman would feel in the same pain as me.
Yeah.
And vice versa. But anyway, the chest, to go back to it, for me is like a 5.
Yep.
And not only is it a 5, but I've been worked on so much on my chest throughout the years that I know that territory so well that I can pretty well tell you exactly what I'm going to experience minute by minute as we move throughout this area.
Yep.
The nipples, I'm getting to that point with too, where I know that territory very well now.
Well, 6 now. That's pretty familiar.
So it's 6 times. The problem with the nipple tattoo is it is a really painful area, but because the chest is not nearly as painful, you have such a sudden ramp up that you're not really expecting. Like, well, you're expecting, but like your body can't kind of pace out.
Right.
Because it's not like it's like, oh, I'm a 5 now, I'm a 6 now, I'm a 7 now, I'm 8. It goes from 5 to 8 or 9 or whatever the hell it is. And then it's such a small area that before you can really get used to the pain you're experiencing, it's already over.
Right.
So it's just such a sprint by nature.
Yep.
You know, like it's with the fingers, like the fingertips and all along these areas, it is really, really rotten. But because you're doing it for an extended period of time, maybe up to an hour, you're in this area, you do climatize to it. You never really get comfortable with it.
It's an uncomfortable thing.
Right. But you kind of like, okay, this is what I'm feeling right now.
Right.
You don't get that with the nipple. It's just
in and out too fast.
And then over.
So when you did it the first time, when you did the first nipple and you had to do another one after that, was there any like apprehensive, like, oh crap, I got a second one to do?
In an odd way, it was the reverse.
Really?
Because it's like, okay, well, that was over quick.
Yeah, you made it through. There we go.
And then you're like, you sit down for the next one, and it's actually a little bit easier because you know it was over so quickly.
Right.
But the other part of the nipple tattoo is if you want it to look really good, you have to do it more than once, I think. Now, maybe there's people out there who get it in one go, but
I haven't seen it.
It's just such a different tissue that it seems to degenerate over time, and it doesn't hold the ink as well as anywhere near it.
Well, there's a lot of people don't look into how different areas of the body will respond to tattoos.
Yeah.
Like you see a lot of people getting certain things done. I just am always curious, do they understand how many times this particular thing will need to be done to get it to a place where it stays the way they want it to?
Yeah.
Like, you know this with the hands, the fingers.
Yeah.
I mean,
if it's worth doing once, it's got to be worth doing more than once.
Yeah.
Too.
And
or
it's going to take
some into it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's going to take some commitment from you. Like anytime we did a palm a little before all this COVID thing, and like trying to talk someone through what a palm tattoo is going to be and the potential upkeep that you're going to need to deal with and all those things, like it's just, I always try and make sure people are really informed. But there are multiple areas of the body, and the nipples is one of them, where you're going to have to keep coming back to it.
Yeah.
To get it to a point where you're satisfied with how it's healed compared to the rest of the piece.
And your satisfaction, your point of that will vary. Like when I say I've done mine 6 times, I don't want anyone to think that you have to do it 6 times. But I'm so perfectionist about things that when I see little flaws, I'm like, this has to be ironed out.
Yeah.
And I don't obsess over it. So that maybe sounds like I'm like looking at it all day, like, oh, I have to do this. But when I see spots on my arms or something, it's always like, I'll get that. I'll get that. And I have a certainty in saying that to myself where it's like, I'll iron that out. I'm not going to leave that.
Yeah.
You know, some people might not mind having a little streak or something in their work, but I'm going to iron that out. I'll get to that eventually.
Yeah.
I've got a few spots on my stomach right now.
Yep.
And the belly button probably needs to be done one more time too.
Yep. There's another tricky area.
These are all things that I'm going to do though. Like they don't bother me because I'll get to them.
Yeah. You got a plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always, well, I'll get that later.
Yeah.
I don't need to do that today, but I will do it.
Yeah.
So my nipples, the last time we did them, they got to a point of real dark gray saturation. Well, this time I think they're going to be more black finally.
Yeah.
And I think that might be my last time needing to do it for me. Someone else might have been done earlier.
Yeah.
But it's also trying with different artists too and different techniques. Like I think Rick used a smaller needle grouping this time. We did most of the chest with a 27, and I think he switched to a 17 for the actual nipples and a little bit of touching up the skull below.
Yep.
That's another thing about those door knockers. The reason why they stayed so long isn't because I loved them. They were actually one of my least favorite parts of my entire suit.
And they held on for it the longest.
They held on so long because I was like, well, how am I going to get those out? Because they were so married into the old work.
Yeah.
Like the skulls hung right into the middle of the eye. And it's like, okay, those are load-bearing skulls. You take them out, you're going to have to take the whole eye out.
Yeah.
So we didn't take the skulls out still. Those little guys are still in there. But Rick blended them into the blackout so they kind of don't show so much.
Yeah.
But that's where I was like, it's going to take a bit of maneuvering.
Yeah.
And then it's...
Well, I think a lot of people think that like this project of yours is like planned to its end point. Like, you know what I mean? Like, because even when I see people ask about it, it's like, well, is he going to do this? Is he going to do that? And it's like, I think it's a little bit more like you take it kind of free flow a little bit, like how you're feeling about a piece at a time, and then how that interacts with the rest of it. Like, I feel like it's a little bit more organic than...
It's been a gradual process, very piece by piece. It's been like step by step figuring out where I want to go.
Right.
And the only thing I can say about what I've just done is I wanted to get rid of those skulls for a long time, but I wasn't sure I would.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't sure what that would look like. And it wasn't until about a month ago where I was like, okay, they're done for. Like, those guys are going.
Yeah.
And I really was like, I got to figure out how I'm going to do this, but I want them gone.
Yep.
Because I just started thinking that they were just taking away from the overall look so much. They fit in before with the old suit because I had so much black and gray work in there.
Yep.
And how shoddy they were, in my opinion, wasn't really that big of a deal because everything blended so well. So it was okay to have that sore spot then. But part of the problem with them was even when they were first done, they were shaded differently, and I'm pretty sure different blacks were used.
Oh, okay.
So
just always kind of looked a little out of place.
I had Rick touch them up for me, what was it, November, December last year. And even then it was like, there's only so much you can do. Like, you could try and bring them back, but how much work do I want to put into these things when I'm also thinking they just look better gone?
Yeah.
Right? There was a lot of trouble like that in my old suit. I think a problem with it was I had an ambition and a desire to do that suit from the time I was very young. I had ideas about how that suit would come together long before I had the money to do it. So when I started creating it, the piece by piece of it, it was after I bought a house and I was with a woman that helped pay the bills and stuff, and I wasn't paying all the bills. And old relationships I was in, I was the sole breadwinner, and I'd have women that weren't working that I was living with, and I'm not no shade to any of that. That's my past. But I had tattoo ideas that I didn't have the money for.
Yeah.
So the old suit, when I was creating it, it wasn't like oh, I'm doing this in the moment. In my mind, I was catching up from years that I wanted to be doing it. So I had this chest piece, and I always knew I wanted to do the eye underneath it, and these tentacles were going to be the background. So this is why a lot of people say your old suit looked so planned. It didn't look terrible. It looked good. Some people think I'm crazy that I blacked it out. They really do. Like, it's like, why would you take all of that work and get rid of it? It wasn't, because most people's idea of blackout tattoos is regret, or like you're covering something you're ashamed of, or it's gang related, or hate symbols or something, right? Swastikas or something. But for me, it was like, no, I had this vision of my suit when I was like 19, 20. I had an idea of what I wanted to look like. Obviously, things materialized differently, and some parts didn't materialize the way I wanted them to.
Right.
That might have been for all kinds of reasons. It might have been because by the time I got it there, it wasn't really what I wanted anymore, and it was just like I was fulfilling a commitment to a younger version of me.
Yep.
So when I do these transformation posts on Instagram, where it's me standing old suit versus new suit, I'm not even necessarily looking at myself as the 27, 28-year-old man that finished that first suit. I'm looking at that guy as 19, 20-year-old me. Right? Which is complicated, probably doesn't make a lot of sense to some people. And then the guy that's standing next with the black suit is me at 30, 31, 32. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm viewing it differently than the world probably is.
Yeah, of course.
Because some people are like, you didn't have those tattoos very long before you covered them up. You finished it, and then you got right back to work. I was like, yeah, I think I was happy with that for about 6 months to a year before it went, okay, this isn't where I want to be.
Yeah.
It's like, why would you spend all that money and go that far to get that suit done and cover it up? It's like, because at some point that was me, and it was me a lot longer than it actually was.
Yeah.
Which is really bizarre to say out loud, but...
Well, it's like, you know, you would have had that from 20 to 28.
Had I the money.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Which I think that ends up being the case for a lot of people, is like they have this idea of something, and then economically they're not able to produce it at that time. Like, I didn't get started probably getting tattooed until I was like 26, 27. But all the tattoos I wanted originally were when I was much younger, obviously.
Yeah.
I'm glad that I didn't do some of the stuff that I wanted to do, because back when I first got into tattoos, obviously tattoos have come a long way.
Yeah.
So it was one of those like, I'm glad that I went with where I was at that point in time.
Yeah.
But I definitely would have done the exact same thing. You know what I mean? Like, it's like I kind of wanted it for that whole time, so I wanted to have an acknowledgement that should have been there. You know what I mean? Like, when I was 20, I should have been doing those things, but I couldn't either afford it, or I just didn't do it. You know what I mean?
Sometimes I think that barrier to entry keeps us from doing stupid tattoos, too.
True. Yeah.
I mean, there was definitely some stuff that people ask me, do you regret any of the tattoos you've done? And it's like, no, I don't regret any of them. And that's not why I covered them. But there were some ones that were a little bit silly.
Yeah,
like,
of course.
My favorite one, I'll do quizzes and stuff on Instagram sometimes. Like, what's a tattoo I actually had? And it's almost never one that people pick.
Yeah.
Which is a black work candy cane.
Yeah.
Which on my ankle, I had a little very whatever black work candy cane. And it's not... See, this is the thing. My look now is very one piece. It's all together, focused, which is what I want to look like, because that's how I feel. I'm a bit minimalist. I don't hang on to things. I don't have, like, my wife has decorated our house since she's moved in. She has a real design sense around the house. You walk in and it looks like she's decorated. It doesn't look like I've decorated. This is me. Like, I'm very minimalist. I could live in a box probably if it had what I needed. But before she moved in, the house was very barren. It was just utilitarian, you know.
It's that classic guy thing of like, there's a chair.
Yeah,
There is
exactly.
a TV.
These things are here for a reason.
They serve purpose only.
I do have a little shelf in the house that has some stuff that my son has given me, and some different things from my past and stuff. But I don't collect things. I used to say, what I do collect is on my skin.
Yeah.
Right? But even that stuff was always like, do I really care that much about this? Like, I do love Spawn, which is what my old sleeve was, my old left arm. But I don't know if I loved it enough to have it on my skin. Like, it's not something I think about all the time. It was just cool images that I liked.
Yep.
And so for me, having that Blackwork candy cane there, that stood for my two first pets, because I had a cat named Candy and a dog named Kane.
Oh, well, there you go.
So it was like, here's one for each of them, right?
Yeah.
But I think that was just an excuse to get a tattoo. Do you know when I think about it, it's like, how much do I really need this candy cane?
Yeah.
And then also knowing that I did it is worth as much as having it.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the memory that I had that Blackwork candy cane, it makes a good story.
Yeah.
And
even though it's covered.
It just didn't make a great image.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
Why have that thing there?
Yeah.
I had a little sun here, and it's like, it was like the typical, like I had a sun and a moon on the inside of my ankles. I'm pretty sure when I got those, it was like with the intention of filling space. Like it's like, yeah, they're kind of cool.
Yep.
But they were walk-in tattoos.
Yep.
How much do I care about that? I know they were there.
Well, that's like the whole, price or like level of commitment to the thing, and then how much you care about it, right? Like, because your bodysuit now, like your blackout work, means a lot more to you than a walk-in tattoo, right?
Way more.
And you have a lot more invested in it, time, money, all of it.
Yeah.
So it's like the meaning of it tends to scale with the
the
investment that you've put into it, right?
People ask me what the blackout means and stuff like this, and it's always like, well, it has a great meaning to me, but it's a different meaning than what it might be to someone else.
Of course.
So like, that guy might be blacking out a whole arm, and it might be for a completely different reason than I am.
Yep.
And he might not really even like it.
Yep.
Like, some people get blackouts with the intention of doing more work on it later, or scarification over it later, or whatever. I would be quite content with the way I look now to be what I carry forward.
Yep.
Now people will say, "Oh, well, you think that now, but you've already said that you liked another way to look earlier." Earlier, I was talking about my old suit. That was my vision of myself. Okay, so what I say to that is, sure. Bring on white ink one day, maybe.
Yep.
Or black on black is something I've talked about a little bit more recently. I've been sharing some posts to this page, black on black tattoo. And it's basically black line work over older black work. So as your black skin, your black tattoos age, they get a little bit lighter over time. Now, if you don't want that to happen, you will have to touch them out, which is something I'm fine with. I just had some of my arm touched up here.
Yep.
Rick touched up some lighter spots. We'll have to do that, casually throughout the years in later spots. You can't make sure that tattoos don't fade. That's any kind of tattoo.
Well, I mean, it's your body is your body, right? Like, it's going to age the way that it's going to age. You're going to expose it to different things. You're going to be in the sun. You're going to get burns. You're going to, you're a human being. We all age.
Yeah.
And your tattoos are a part of you at that point in time, and they're going to age too.
Yep.
So.
And I mean, well put in work will age slower. And if you take care of it well, if you don't go out in the sun all the time, it will age slow. But it will age. And I don't mind touching things up.
Yeah.
My arms are probably going to be the place that I touch up the most.
Yeah.
Because they see the most sun and they get the most wear at work and stuff, right?
Yep.
But the pain of an arm tattoo is more than manageable.
Yeah. So much less than the torso.
So like, you can see parts of my arm here are a little bit darker right now, but they're going to fade too.
Yep.
So the idea with black on black tattoo is these parts of my skin that are a little bit lighter, you would then take a different color of black or a different shade of black, and you would do minimalist like line work. I wouldn't recommend doing any more than that.
Yeah.
And
I've seen some cool stuff doing like simple American traditional or simple Japanese stuff over top of it, and it's really subtle, and more than likely years it's going to be the subtleness is going to be even more so. Like, it's going to be real fine difference.
And there are techniques to do this stuff, and there's a lot that you can do these days. So what I would say, to go back to that point, is if I decide that I don't like just the black. It's not really too much trouble for me to do more.
Yep.
Like, I don't hate this process.
Yeah.
Some people do.
Yeah.
Like some people really don't like being tattooed, and they're just burning to the finish line. It's like, as soon as this suit is finished, I'm done, and I'm gonna boast about how I have a finished tattoo suit.
Yeah.
And it's not an enjoyment for them.
Yeah.
Like I know some guys who they do have mostly full suits, but a lot of it is falling apart, and they're scared to go back into it.
Yep.
Like, and I say scared because that's what it is. It's like they know what those areas feel like, and they're not doing it again.
Well, and like if you have work, I mean, blackout's unique, right? Because like you're going over, in a cover-up sense, you're going over all of the tissue that's already been worked over. So anytime you get a tattoo, you're going to scar that tissue a little bit. So when you're covering it, that area that has a tattoo underneath it is going to hurt slightly more, or could be considerably more than when you first got it on, like, naked skin, right?
I've often thought too that we attach more than is appropriate too, because if you had your neck tattooed once and it was a really bad experience for you, then that emotional weight is kind of coloring the experience too.
Sure, yeah.
Because you're going into it with a memory now, like, oh God, I got butchered this time, and so it takes on more value even to you than the actual pain of the experience.
Well, it's like the the thing that you don't know, because like when you're in the experience and it sucks and it is what it is, that's one thing, but that's actually tangible in there. The lead up to a potential horrible thing can last years.
Yeah.
Like if you're constantly thinking, oh man, that throat thing, oh, I want to go back in it, but I can't, oh no, I'm scared, that's years of that.
See, this is part of my preparation, and it's a non-preparation. Like when I was talking to a buddy of mine, good friend of mine, he has a big black sleeve, and he has like the nicest blackout hand I've ever seen. He's had a little bit of work by 3K Roos, I think that's how you say his name, on his hand. But anyway, he's got almost perfect blackout hand.
Wow.
And he was, oh, you're getting your nipples tattooed again today, eh? Yeah. He goes, let me know how that goes, with a laughing, crying emoji, right?
Yeah.
And I said to him, I said, what can I tell you, man? In my mind, I'm already done. Like, I'm at home thinking about dinner right now, because I've been through that pain so many times that I can pretty well tell you what it feels like. And I'm not dreading it. I don't ever think about how it's gonna feel that until I get there. Like, I'm not even sitting here waiting to get tattooed. I'm not even thinking about it then. I don't think about any part of it until it's happening. And even when I am in that experience, I'm almost distracting myself right away. Like I'm thinking about what I want to do with the rest of my days off. I always make sure that if I have 2 days off, the first day off, I'm getting tattooed in the morning or whatever, so that instead of going into it worrying about life sucking, I'm thinking about how good life is going to be when I'm eating big takeout meal or something that night. Like I do it with like you go through your pain in the morning, and then that night you get your cheat day for the week.
Yeah, it's like kind of getting your workout in the morning so you can have a better day.
And then you go home and you're feeling great, and you have a nice meal that night. I've kind of built my life around making tattoos a good thing. As opposed to... They are
a good thing.
Yeah.
Like the pain is only one portion of it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yes, it sucks, and there's times, but at the same time, like, I don't know, it's like it's kind of building you at the same time. Like you're enduring something that is a level of discomfort that most people don't put themselves through often. You know what I mean? Like, but I think that's good. I think it's good to take something that is uncomfortable and get through it. And, you know, you kind of grow from that.
You feel like you've accomplished something. I think we don't really do that too much anymore, like where we are exposed to a bad situation or something, and then you come through it. Like a lot of life is kind of padded for us now.
Less about perseverance.
But another thing is I've made tattoos work for me really well. Like so people think, how long did you sit for that day? Like they're expecting me to spit out some crazy number, like 15 hours, and I did it, and I didn't say a word. Like I was rocked the whole time. Right? And what I always say is I think a little surprising is, it was about an hour and a half, 2 hours, maybe 2.5 hours, somewhere in that area. And it's like, really? That's short? It's like, I do smaller sessions one a week kind of thing, and it used to be 2 a week for a long time.
Yep.
Because that's at a pace that I like it, right? Not to say that I can't sit for longer than that, or that I haven't. I think the longest I've sat is 9.5 hours. On
That's
my
a lot.
head. It was slow though. It was a slow artist doing very really slow work and whatever. It was manageable. I was tired by the end of it. I wanted to go sleep.
Oh yeah.
I wasn't wailing in agony. I was just like, ugh, I'm done with this.
Yeah, it's a lot.
So I don't like those sessions.
Yeah, I'd
Right?
rather get it done.
I'd rather do 2 hours every week, and then you're making progress, but you're not burning yourself out.
Yep.
Some people they'll do every few months, they'll do 8-hour session or whatever.
Yeah.
I think that works for some people, but for some people, I think it scares the hell out of them to go back
Yeah, I would say so.
because they're biting off more than they can chew, right? It's like going, I want to do this whole sleeve in 2 days.
Yeah.
It's like, prepare for a couple of rotten days.
Yeah.
And then that's going to be your memory of doing that sleeve.
Yeah.
It was awful.
Yep.
And I have respect for people who can do that, but that's not how I want to make tattoos for me.
Almost everyone that has done something like that, some sort of like extreme, I'm going to do as much stuff as I can get packed into either 1 day or 2 days, or like trying to do a sleeve in a couple of weeks. Like anytime that happens, it's like good on you for doing it.
Yeah.
But you're never going to want to do it again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's not something that, unless you're one of those magical people that has very high pain tolerance.
Yeah.
But like to actually sit there for a crazy amount of coverage, like it's such a discouraging event because it's so much worse than what it needs to be. And like that's part of the the practice of patience. Like if you were to take that same thing and just give yourself room
Slow
in
and
it.
steady.
Just give yourself the room.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to get it done in this thing unless you're in some sort of unique circumstance that this is the only way it can happen.
Guest artist
Or something, or you're going to a tattoo show and you're going to do it all day, 2 people working on you or 3 people working on you to complete some amazing thing.
Yeah.
If it's a unique circumstance, totally. But if you have this large plan, give yourself the space and the time, and to make sure that you don't absolutely hate it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And you've destroyed the idea of tattooing, in
Yeah.
my opinion. Like it doesn't have to be an awful, terrible experience that you dread doing again.
Yeah.
I do think that that's a valuable experience to give
Oh, yeah.
yourself. Like, I'm happy that I know what it's like to do that.
Yeah.
But having that experience, I know I like it more when I'm breaking it up.
Yep.
I'd rather do smaller sessions and be less sore. And like last year, there were some days when I was just so sore that I didn't want to do anything except exist. I was eating worse. I was exercising almost never because I was just so sore all the time.
Yeah.
And no, like I'm not complaining. I was on a hell of a quest last year. I was doing as much as I could, as fast as I could, because as soon as I realized that Lee was going to be moving cities, I felt like we were up against the time limit that we kind of weren't.
Yeah.
Like we weren't actually in as much of a hurry as I thought we were.
Yeah.
So it was like, okay, let's get this going, right?
Yeah.
We ended up getting finished a lot faster than I thought we would, and we ended up kind of joyriding a little bit. Like we had some fun sessions after and stuff. But I found myself almost like telling Lee, like, okay, let's do this giant section. Let's touch up this whole arm.
Yeah.
Let's rip up this whole rib on the left. And then going home after 4.5 hours of heavy black work and
brutal.
just falling over.
Yep.
Like, and being ill almost.
Well, and a lot of people don't understand too. Lee is so much faster.
Yeah.
Like 4.5 hours with Lee, that's like
And then
what,
it
12,
was
15 hours with someone else?
that one session in particular that I'm talking about was where I went home and I was sick. I literally threw up that day. Like the tattoos healed fine.
Yeah.
For what it's worth. Like there was no complications. But it was like, I don't want to do this to myself forever.
Yep.
And so this year I'm still getting a lot done.
Yeah, you are.
But I'm working a pace that I can work out. I can go for a walk with my wife that night or I'm not debilitated by it.
You didn't get hit by a car kind of situation.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
gotta curl up in bed for a week.
Yeah, and I did. I felt like I didn't want anything to even move near me. I have a couple of dogs, and like whenever they would move, I would be like, like, you know what I mean? Like,
don't touch
please. And then you're almost babying yourself.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to do that to myself again. So again, working differently now, right? Like I'm the pace I'm going now, I think I could probably manage for my whole life.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Where
well,
I even have some weeks off sometimes, and
Well, it's like that, people always have that issue going back to the gym and then they hurt themselves. And it's like, well, okay.
Yeah, you're working too hard.
You are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You got to put yourself in a place where you can do something consistently.
Yeah.
Forever. And that's like the idea of a lifestyle or like a short-term goal.
Yeah.
And yours is a lifestyle thing, right? Like this is a big enough project that you can look at it in a large expanse of time. And I think that's wise.
I had gotten to a point on the first suit where, quite honestly, when I thought about getting tattooed, it was disgusting to me. Like, and not because it was so painful either. I was going, at that time, I was working with Lee on Thursday mornings, and Lee on Wednesday mornings, always Wednesday mornings with Lee.
Yep.
And I was at the other shop Thursdays. And Thursday sits were go in at noon and you're there until 6.
Yeah.
And some of it is talking and some of it is tattooing and whatever else. There was a lot of breaks, and it was just like, I got to a point with tattooing where I was almost sick of it because I was going twice a week for weeks on end.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And people would be like, how could you afford that? Well, I couldn't afford it, but not financially, mentally.
Yeah.
I was spending myself quick.
Yep.
I was getting like to the point where when I would hear a tattoo machine, it was like, ugh, like this again. Like I was getting bored of it.
Yeah.
And that wasn't a good place for me to be. But I had, like I told you earlier, I felt like I was catching up on years.
Yep.
So I was committed to it.
Yep.
But it was a slog, right? It was.
Yeah.
I didn't want to go Thursdays. Sometimes I didn't want to get up and go Wednesdays because even though I would see Lee for a shorter amount of time, as you said, Lee is very quick. So you covered a lot of ground quick.
Yep.
So here I have my front half being worked on Thursdays, my back half being worked on Wednesdays.
Yeah.
So I'm in pain on both sides of me. Before that, it was the sleeves. I had Lee sleeving one arm and the other guy sleeving the other arm. So it was just like marathoning, just discomfort.
Well, and it's everything that comes with it too, right? Like you got the healing. The healing in itself is a thing. You know what I mean? Like you got a couple weeks of healing tattoo, which sometimes that's soreness, sometimes a lot of the time it's itchy, and just kind of like at least a week or two of discomfort, and you're doing it on both sides of you consistently.
Yeah.
Ugh.
And it wasn't healing as well either because my body was under attack.
Yep.
Because just like I think my body was just begging for mercy. Like,
well,
please, God, stop.
I'm sure like there was more that going on than you can probably even think. Like it was probably more painful than it needed to be.
Yeah.
Because like if your body is under that type of trauma, it's going to be sending out more aggressive pain signals to get it to stop, right? Because like that's what the pain receptor is trying to get you to do, is to pay attention to whatever that area is, to fix it so you can be alive, or however you want to do it. So by doing that back and forth thing, it's probably like that's where I always say a 2-day sit is a big undertaking, because that second day your body's already like, okay man, let's cut this out. And you were doing that to yourself.
I did every week. I did 2 tattoos for 2 years. Oof. And there were even some times when I would sneak in extras. Like there was a memory on Facebook from 2016. Just the other day popped up where I had been bandaged from one tattoo and then walked over to another shop and got tattooed immediately after.
Oh damn!
Somewhere on my leg. It was I had a little guy here, and then I had some script here, and these are like I was seeing like 6 artists at that point. Yeah. Like I said, 2 of them were at separate shops, so I ambled from one shop with a fresh leg tattoo to another shop and got tattooed on that same leg that same day, and I'm pretty sure that I had another tattoo 2 days later. Like it was I was on a mission. That was
Yeah.
2016.
Yep.
From around 2015 until now, I've been getting tattooed just nonstop.
Yep.
And so people will see these flashbacks of me where for a long time, I had the tattoos I had. I had this chest piece, I had a back piece, I had the rose mantle and throat tattoo.
Yep.
And then I had a couple of tattoos on my arms.
Yep.
And that was me for years.
Yeah, yeah.
And people are like, then you suddenly got so much, and then you suddenly got rid of so much. And it's like, yeah, I was on one hell of a journey, and I still am.
Yeah.
And I really believe that I'm making up for lost time. Like,
Yeah.
it's all just catching up.
Yeah.
You know, like it's.
I think the pacing that you're doing right now is quite good.
Yeah, I like the
You know what I
pace on
mean?
that now. I
Like-
feel like this is natural now for
Yeah.
me.
Which is extreme for others. Like even for me, I don't know if I could do it once a week. Like,
Well, see, I'm in a different spot now, though. Like even a year ago, when I was in the middle of the original Blackout project, which was the torso,
Yeah.
I was dead set that Lee was going to finish that because it was him and I came up with this idea, and it
Yeah.
kept growing, right?
Yep. I
It was
remember when
like-
you were first doing the blackout on
Yeah.
your sleeve. Like
Yeah,
that was like the
yeah,
the starting point, if you will.
yeah. And Lee and I had been working together for years by that point, but
Yep.
we had grown into friends throughout that, and closer as it goes to the point where, like, I invited him to my wedding.
Yeah.
He was busy. It wasn't like personal. It was just like he would have come to my wedding. Like we
yeah.
got to that close over the course of tattooing.
Yeah. We spent a lot of time together.
Yeah, yeah. So
Plus, he's a solid dude.
yeah, really solid dude
Yeah.
for sure. Like we're like bros now.
Yeah.
Like I don't get to that point often with people, but anyway, I was so wanting to get that suit done with him that it became a mission that we were going to get it done, and I didn't really care what kind of pain I was in.
Yeah.
I wanted to get it done.
You were gonna endure it.
Yeah. And so with that meant doing things that I wasn't necessarily comfortable with that week. Like, but if we missed a week, it was like, okay, but we got to get this done. So now next week we have to do twice.
Twice as much,
So
yeah.
there was a couple weeks where if Lee would be traveling or something, well, then when he got back in town, it was 2 sessions. It was a session Sunday night,
Yep.
which was an uncomfortable session because it's like, I don't like getting tattooed late night.
Yeah.
But if that's what we have to do, then I have to be back in Wednesday morning and we have to hit something else.
Yeah.
We have to make up that time. Now I'm at a point where if Rick needs a day off or if he's going to be tattooing someone else that day and you let me know, like it's, okay, I can take the week off.
Yeah.
I'm not sweating that.
Yeah.
Where are we going, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's fine if I have a few weeks off here or there.
Yep.
COVID, I got tattooed after a bunch of times, you know what I mean?
Yep.
But I didn't sweat that time off because I feel like I am where I kind of want to be, and I'm not really burning to be finished anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like if we amble around and Rick and I eventually get done, I'm kind of okay with that
Yeah.
because I'm not running to the finish line this year
Yeah.
or probably ever again.
Yep.
Because what am I gonna do? Like, I was just talking about this earlier. Like, I think we've only got 6 or 7 more sessions on the legs at all, and then it's what are we doing after that? We're touching things up.
Yep.
You know, it's I want to touch up this chest piece.
Yeah.
You know, it's
It'll
going to
pretty
be
light lifting.
it's going to be light lifting.
Yeah.
So, you know, the way we've approached the legs has been with that mentality.
Yeah.
For me, anyway, it's been, we don't really need to do this in any particular rush.
Yeah.
Because we're going to be done when we're done.
When we're done.
And then once we're done, we're just tattooing because we like to at that point, right? I'll probably always have, once I'm finished the legs, I'll probably always keep something at the shop, just so I have that that window of, oh, well, I get tattooed, so I don't feel like I miss it. I don't get tattooed anymore, and it's a
Yeah,
big
yeah.
part of my life.
Yep.
So then it'll be fine-tuning things. Like if I see spots on my arm, it'll be, hey, Rick, you want to touch up my arm this week? Like,
Yeah.
but obviously won't be like, oh, I'm just coming in and hanging out, and I'll just keep something booked so
Yeah.
that I have that in my
That
life
option.
still.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course.
So it's a weird thing to worry about, but I do worry about being finished.
Yeah.
But I also worry about not being able to let go and then ruining stuff that I've already done for the right reasons.
I get what you're saying.
So it's about finding a healthy medium at that point. But like I was talking about the black on black tattoo line work stuff, I like that option more than the white on black right now. I don't know if it's an aesthetic thing or just it's easier for me to understand because I've never done white ink over black yet.
Yep.
And I think that's kind of it's easier to visualize going darker over black work that's lightened up for me right now.
Yep.
And I think I might even like that look more.
Well, like the white over black is, even though it still ends up being pretty subtle when it's healed, it's still like a stark difference. So it's almost like you've done the negative of what, bare skin with black ink or black ink with white ink over top of it. It's kind of like you're back to square one. You can kind of do designs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it has to be kind of simple. It's not like you can do the same kind of shades and things like that.
Yeah.
At least not right yet. I mean, I've seen some cool stuff happening with the white ink and all that stuff. But I mean, I don't think the experimentation in that area is finished at all.
No. I'm seeing crazier and crazier stuff.
Yeah.
But what I have seen is that it's mostly based on what you want it to look like. Like, if you only do it once, it will be really faint. And maybe that's what you're going for.
Yeah.
But if you do it twice, maybe it'll be a little more noticeable. You do it 3 times, it'll be really noticeable. Maybe you don't want it to be really noticeable, right? So there's a lot of nuance in it where it's like, what do you expect it to look like versus what do you want it to look like will vary on how many times you go into it.
Yep.
But I was really happy with getting the original black work done last year with Lee, and then starting fresh with the legs with Rick, because it feels like you're building something new.
Yeah.
And I've always said that if you can, you should finish whatever the piece was you were working on with that same artist.
Yeah.
So like Lee started the blackout torso, so it was important for me to finish it with him. I didn't want to go into that until it was touch-ups with Rick. Same thing, like Rick is blacking out my legs. I don't really want someone else to start in on that process because everyone's work heals and feels a little bit different.
Yeah, you have to learn it all over again.
You have to learn it all over again. And even though Rick has tattooed me dozens of times, the blackout for him and for me, we're starting almost a new piece.
Yep.
As weird as that sounds.
No, it doesn't sound weird to me. But then again, I know this stuff.
Well, some people look at it and go, what do you mean? It's just black.
Yeah.
Well, no, but everybody's black is a little bit different, or like some people can't do it at all.
Yep.
Like it's really hard for some people.
A lot of people don't understand that it's not like you can just, it's not easy. Like a blackout suit is full saturation. That in itself is very difficult to get. And then the different areas of the body, every part of the body is a little unique. So your knowledge of the body and how the skin reacts and all that stuff will show up in how the work is. You know what I mean? And that's one of those things that the really experienced black work guys, that's what they do, and they've got it down pat. You know what I mean? And it's
an interesting thing too. Is that I have 2 nice looking black hands. Considering what I've seen some where literally nothing stays past here.
Yeah.
Right. But it's funny is that 2 separate artists have done these, and they have a bit of a different shade of black, but they're both solid.
Yeah.
And so that's another
using
thing.
The same ink too.
Using the same ink.
Yep.
It's like I don't think I like either one of them more than the other, but they're a little bit different. Because they were done by 2 different people.
Yeah.
Right. So that's another reason why I wanted to have the whole torso done by one guy and then legs done by another guy. Because it is going to look a little bit different. Artist to artist, it's hard to be like you can try and ape someone else's style or their look of saturation, but it's hard to do the exact same thing with 2 different people.
Oh yeah, and like they're 2 different human beings, 2 different heartbeats, right?
Yeah.
Like 2 different heartbeats doing something that's an artistic thing. No matter how you do it, it's gonna be different. It's gonna be minute, but it's gonna be different.
And it feels different too. Like I've been tattooed by nearly 20 different people, and anytime a new artist works on me, there are similarities, but it's a different experience.
Yeah. The feeling of the needles is almost always the same, but the rest of it around it is totally different.
Yeah, the pace, the hand speed, like how deep they're going, right?
Yeah. How often they wipe.
Yeah, how often they wipe. Some people wipe hard.
Yeah.
And some people don't wipe often.
Yep.
Like some people will be working in a giant mess and they know where they're at. Like,
yeah, that always amazes me.
Like it's like, whoa, how can you? And then they wipe it and they haven't made any mistakes.
Yep.
But it's like, I can't see where you're going, but you know exactly where you're at.
Yep.
Where some people, they'll pull one line and then they're wiping, and it's like, okay, that skin's getting away. Maybe wipe a little less. I don't know, but whatever works, as long as it works, doesn't matter.
The end result is all that matters.
But yeah,
but for a situation like you where you're doing it consistently, you have to learn the pacing. It's not like you're doing a little candy cane and you don't have to learn that person's pacing every time, right?
That's another thing. Like that Blackwork candy cane. There was a period I talked about where I was getting burned out with these big pieces that I was working on, where sometimes I almost felt like it was like a man leaving to cheat on his wife with a prostitute or something, where it was like I would go and I would get tattooed by another random artist and just get something small and self-contained, because it was like, I'm just doing something small today. And I almost felt bad doing that because I'm in the middle of these giant projects. And here I am going and getting a Dragon Ball tattooed on me or something. Yeah. Like something small, and they're gone now. But like it felt good to have like a 45-minute tattoo where it was like, ooh, look at that. I don't have to work on that again.
It's a one and done. Look at that.
But then I'm going to see my other artists that are working on these massive pieces. And it's like, I kind of don't want to do this today.
Yeah.
But still,
well, there's an appeal to all things, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like big projects, little projects, like that's the cool thing about, it's a different reason that they're appealing.
I remember it was right after I finished my my right arm blackout, which was the first part, where I remember thinking, I'm not doing any more small tattoos. Like, I don't want any more little things.
Yep.
There was a time when I liked that, but I think I had gotten to a point where I knew I didn't want any more scattershot tattoos on me. And I still like that look for some people, but for me, it's got to be big, bold, and one piece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it makes sense. I mean, the long and the short of it is you got to tattoo your nipples.
You got to tattoo your nipples. If you're sitting there thinking, should I tattoo my nipples? Is
Always
it so
tattoo
painful?
your nipples.
Just do it. Just do it.
We're begging.
Yeah.
Just tattoo your nipples.
Just tattoo 'em.